Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we get right into the heart of things. Today we're tackling something fundamental: metabolic fuels and dietary components. We're drawing from Marks Basic Medical Biochemistry, but you don't need the book open, we promise. Our goal here is simple: unpack how your body actually uses fuel, stores energy, and gets what it needs from your diet. We'll look at the core concepts, the key pathways, and importantly, why this matters for your everyday energy balance and health. Think of it as understanding the instruction manual for your body's energy systems.
It really is like an instruction manual, and a surprisingly complex one. Even something as simple as eating, well, kicks off this incredible cascade of biochemical reactions. Knowing this stuff isn't just academic. It really helps you understand your own health, maybe your weight, and even how certain diseases work.
Okay, let's dive right in. Where do we get our energy? It starts with the food we eat, specifically those macronutrients.
Exactly. Your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. Those are the big three fuel sources.
So how does that work? We eat them and then...
Well, your digestive system breaks them down, they get absorbed into your bloodstream, and then your cells take them up. Inside the cells, they get oxidized. Think of it like controlled burning.
Burning fuel.
In a sense, yeah. This process needs the oxygen you breathe in, and it gives off carbon dioxide, which you breathe out, plus water. But the real point isn't just making heat. It's generating adenosine triphosphate, ATP.
ATP, right? I remember that. That's like the body's energy money, isn't it?
That's a perfect analogy. It's the universal energy currency. It pays for almost everything your cells do: muscle contractions, sending nerve signals, building new molecules, you name it.
So ATP fuels the immediate stuff, but what about the energy we don't use right away? Like after a big meal, does it just disappear?
Oh no, the body is way too efficient for that. It has a fantastic storage system. Any fuel you take in that you don't need immediately gets stored for later.
How?
The main way is as triacylglycerol, that's basically fat stored in your adipose tissue. We also store some carbohydrate as glycogen, mostly in the liver and muscles. And even muscle protein can be tapped into, but that's usually more of a last resort.
And these stores are what we use when we're not eating, like overnight.
Precisely. During fasting periods, between meals, or while you sleep, your body draws energy from these reserves to keep everything running.
Which sounds like it directly connects to weight gain or loss. Eat more than you burn, you store it.
You store it, you gain weight. Burn more than you eat, you dip into those stores.
And you lose weight. Simple in principle, maybe not always simple in practice.
Exactly. The basic energy balance is key, but there's more to the story. Your diet isn't just about energy. It also has to provide essential building blocks, precursors that your body needs but can't make itself.
Like what?
Things like essential fatty acids and essential amino acids. You absolutely need to get these from food. Plus, of course, vitamins, minerals, and water. They don't provide energy, but they're crucial for everything else.
Okay, makes sense. What about stuff in food that our body doesn't need, or things that are actually bad for us?
Yeah, we encounter those too. They're often called xenobiotic compounds. Basically, chemicals that offer no nutritional value, the body can't use them, and they might even be toxic. Your body has ways to detoxify and get rid of these, along with other metabolic waste, mainly through urine and feces. It's a constant cleanup job.
This is really interesting. Now let's talk about calories. We see that word everywhere. What exactly is a nutritional calorie with a capital C?
Good question, because it can be confusing. That nutritional calorie is actually a kilocalorie, or kcal. It's a unit of energy, specifically the energy needed to heat 1 liter of water by 1 degree Celsius. Sometimes you see energy measured in joules too. 1 kcal is about 4.18 kilojoules. But most people and doctors stick with calories, or kcal.
Okay, so it's a measure of energy content. How much energy do we get from those different macronutrients? Let's start with carbs like starches, sugars.
Right. Carbohydrates give you about 4 kilocalories per gram. They get broken down into simple sugars, mostly glucose, which enters your bloodstream. An interesting point is that carbs are already somewhat oxidized, chemically speaking. They carry some oxygen atoms.
Okay, 4 kilocalories per gram for carbs. What about proteins? Made of amino acids, right?
Yep. Proteins also yield about 4 kilocalories per gram when used for energy. Digesting protein gives you amino acids, and using them for fuel also produces some nitrogen waste, like ammonium, that the body has to handle.
So carbs and protein are both around 4 kilocalories, but fats, triacylglycerols, I hear they're much higher.
Oh, absolutely. Fats are the real energy heavyweights. They provide about 9 kilocalories per gram.
Wow, more than double. Why is that?
It comes down to their chemical structure. Fats are more reduced. They have way more hydrogen atoms and fewer oxygen atoms compared to carbs or proteins. This means there's more potential energy locked up in their chemical bonds, ready to be released when they're oxidized.
That's a huge difference, 9 kilocalories for fat. And what about alcohol, ethanol?
Alcohol isn't technically a nutrient, but it definitely provides energy. It gives you about 7 kilocalories per gram. So more than carbs or protein, but less than fat.
Let's put some numbers on this. Say someone like Ann R. in our example eats 100 grams of carbs, 20 grams of protein, and 15 grams of fat. How many calories is that?
Okay, let's see. 100 grams of carbs times 4 is 400 kilocal. 20 grams of protein times 4 is 80 kilocal.
Okay.
And 15 grams of fat times 9 is 135 kilocal.
Mm-hmm.
Add those up. 400 plus 80 plus 135, that's 615 calories for ANR.
615. Okay. Now, what about someone with a much higher intake like Ivan A? Let's say 585 grams of carbs, 150 grams of protein, 95 grams of fat, and maybe 45 grams of alcohol.
Right, bigger numbers here. 585 times 4 for carbs is 2,340 kilocal. 150 times 4 for protein is 600 kilocal. 95 times 9 for fat is 855 kilocal. And 45 times 7 for alcohol is 315 kilocal. Wow. So Ivan A's total, let's add that. 2,340 plus 600 plus 855 plus 315 comes out to 4,110 calories a day. Quite a difference.
Definitely. So we've seen how much energy is in different foods. Now back to storage. What makes a good fuel reserve for the body?
Well, ideally you want something that packs a lot of energy into a small, light package and something you can easily access when you need it.
And fat fits the bill.
Fat, or adipose triacylglycerol, is our champion store. It hits all those points. As we said, it's got 9 kilocal per gram, super energy dense. And adipose tissue itself doesn't hold much water, maybe only 15%, unlike muscle, which is mostly water. So it's compact. An average 70-kilo guy might have 15 kilos of fat stored, which represents something like 85% of his total stored energy. Massive reserve.
Okay, fat is the main long-term storage. What about glycogen, the carbohydrate store? You mentioned it's smaller.
Yeah, glycogen stores are much smaller, but still vital. You got some in your liver and some in your muscles. Liver glycogen is key for keeping your blood glucose stable, especially for your brain, which relies heavily on glucose.
And muscle glycogen.
That's like the muscle's own private stash of fuel, ready for quick use during exercise. But we can't store huge amounts of energy as glycogen, mainly because it's polar. It binds a lot of water, about 4 grams of water for every gram of glycogen. If we tried to store all our reserves that way, we'd be incredibly heavy and bulky. Fat is just much more efficient for bulk storage.
Makes sense. And protein, can we use muscle as a major fuel source?
We can, but it's not ideal. Protein has so many other critical jobs: structure, enzymes, movement. While there's a fair amount of protein in the body, maybe 6 kilos in that 70-kilo man, breaking down large amounts for energy starts to compromise essential functions. It's really reserved for situations like prolonged starvation. You don't want to burn the furniture, so to speak.
Yeah, got it. So our bodies are constantly burning fuel, even when we're just sitting here. How do we figure out the total amount of energy we use in a day?
That total is called the daily energy expenditure, or DEE. It's basically made up of 3 parts. The biggest chunk for most people is the basal metabolic rate, or BMR.
BMR, that's the energy just to stay alive, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It's the minimum energy you need to keep basic functions going. Your heart beating, lungs breathing, brain activity, maintaining body temperature, all those background biochemical processes when you're completely at rest, physically and mentally, and haven't eaten for a while. You might also hear the term resting metabolic rate, RMR, which is measured under slightly less strict conditions, but is often used similarly.
And what influences that BMR? It's not the same for everyone, is it?
Not at all. Lots of things affect it. Body size is a big one. Bigger people generally burn more calories at rest.
Yeah.
Age is another factor. DMR tends to slowly decrease as we get older.
Why is that?
Partly due to changes in body composition, like losing some muscle mass. Sex also plays a role. Men often have a higher BMR per kilo than women, partly because they tend to have more muscle and less fat tissue, and muscle is more metabolically active. Body temperature makes a difference. BMR goes up if you have a fever. Thyroid hormones are huge regulators. An overactive thyroid speeds up BMR, an underactive one slows it down. Things like pregnancy, breastfeeding, and growth spurts in kids also increase energy needs. And yes, there's definitely a genetic component too.
So how can we estimate someone's BMR? Are there formulas?
There are. Some rough rules of thumb exist, like 1 kcal per kilogram per hour for men and 0.9 for women, but those are very approximate, especially for people who aren't at an average weight. More accurate equations use height, weight, age, and sex.
Let's try this for our examples. Ivan A is 120 kilograms, and R is 45 kilograms.
Okay, for Ivan A, that rough rule gives a huge number, like 2,880 kilocal day. But a more sophisticated equation, accounting for his likely higher body fat percentage, might estimate his BMR closer to, say, 1992 kilocal day. That difference shows why simple rules can be misleading for obese individuals because fat tissue isn't very metabolically active. For ANR, more accurate estimate might be around 1,238 kilojoules.
So BMR is the base. What are the other parts of daily energy expenditure?
The next big one is physical activity, and this varies enormously. Someone sedentary might only add about 30% of their BMR through activity. Someone moderately active, maybe exercising a couple hours a day, might add 60–70%. A very active person or athlete could easily add 100% of their BMR or even more.
And the third part, you mentioned DIT.
Right, diet-induced thermogenesis, that's the energy cost of actually processing the food you eat. Digestion, absorption, storage. It's usually estimated at around 10% of the calories you consume. For simplicity, it's sometimes bundled into the activity factor or ignored in basic calculations, but it's there.
So if we combine BMR and activity for Ivan and Ann.
Let's say Ivan A is sedentary. His DEE would be his BMR, 1992 times maybe 1.3, so around 2590 kcal. If ANR is moderately active, her DEE might be her BMR, 1238 times, say, 1.65. That comes out to about 2043 kcal. And it's worth noting that sedentary lifestyle Ivan has, it's a major risk factor for heart disease, which is the biggest killer in the U.S.
Okay, we've got intake calculations and expenditure calculations. How do we assess if someone's weight is healthy? And what about all the other things we need besides energy?
The standard measure for healthy weight is body mass index, BMI. It relates your weight to your height. You calculate it as weight in kilograms divided by height in meters squared.
And what are the ranges?
Generally, under 18.5 is considered underweight. 18.5 up to 24.9 is the healthy range. 25 to 29.9 is overweight. And 30 and above is classified as obese, with further classes for severe obesity.
So applying that to Ivan A and Ann R.
Ivan A, with his stats, has a BMI around 37.9. That puts him squarely in the obese category, class 2 obesity, actually. And R, on the other hand, has a BMI of about 15.5, which is significantly underweight.
And this ties back to the calorie balance we calculated earlier.
Absolutely. We saw Ivan A was consuming about 410 calories, but only expending around 2590. That's a surplus of over 1,500 calories a day. He's definitely gaining weight. Ann R was consuming only 615 calories, but expending over 2,000. She's in a massive deficit of over 1,400 calories a day, which explains why she's underweight and losing more. Remember the rough estimate, burning about 3,500 calories more than you eat leads to losing about a pound of fat.
Right. But it's not just about calories, is it? We need specific nutrients, too.
Definitely not just calories. We need specific amounts of those essential amino acids and fatty acids we mentioned, plus vitamins and minerals. That's where the dietary reference intakes, or DRIs, come in. These are estimates for nutrient needs for healthy people.
DRIs, what kinds are there?
Well, there's the Recommended Dietary Allowance, RDA, which aims to meet the needs of almost all healthy individuals, like 97–98%. If there isn't enough evidence for an RDA, they set an adequate intake, AI. There's also the Tolerable Upper Intake Level, UL, which is the highest amount you can likely take without risk of harm. And really useful for overall diet planning is the Acceptable Macronutrient Distribution Range, AMDR.
AMDR, what's that?
It gives you a recommended percentage range of your total daily calories that should come from each macronutrient, carbs, fats, and protein to provide energy and reduce the risk of chronic diseases.
Okay, let's break down some key requirements. Carbohydrates.
The RDA is 130 grams per day, largely to ensure enough glucose for the brain. The AMDR is broad, 45–65% of your total calories. The focus should be on complex carbs from whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, not empty calorie sugars.
Fats, especially those essential ones.
The AMDR for total fat is 20–35% of calories. But critically, we need those essential fatty acids, the omega-6, linoleic acid, and omega-3 alpha-linolenic acid types found in plant oils, plus EPA and DHA often found in fish oils. Our bodies can't make them. They're precursors for important signaling molecules called eicosanoids.
And protein.
The RDA is around 0.8 grams per kilogram of healthy body weight per day for adults. The AMDR is 10–35% of calories. It's important to get high-quality protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids that adults can't synthesize. Animal sources and soy are typically complete. Vegans need to carefully combine plant sources like beans and grains to get the full set.
You mentioned essential amino acids. Are there others?
Yes, there are also conditionally essential amino acids. Your body can usually make them, but sometimes, like during rapid growth or illness, or if the precursor is lacking, you might need to get them from your diet. Arginine, for example, or tyrosine if phenylalanine intake is low. We also talk about nitrogen balance with protein, basically comparing nitrogen intake from protein to nitrogen excretion.
How does that work?
Growing kids or pregnant women are usually in positive nitrogen balance, taking in more than they excrete because they're building tissues. Healthy adults are typically in nitrogen balance. But if you're not getting enough protein or essential amino acids, you go into negative nitrogen balance, breaking down body protein, which is harmful. This ties into malnutrition states like kwashiorkor, which is severe protein deficiency often seen with edema, and marasmus, which is prolonged energy and protein starvation leading to wasting.
What about vitamins? Percy V had low folic acid and B12.
Yes, vitamins. Organic molecules needed in small amounts, often acting as coenzymes in metabolic reactions. Folic acid, a B vitamin, and vitamin B12 are crucial for making red blood cells, among other things. Folate is widespread in leafy greens and fortified foods. But B12 is unique. It's found almost exclusively in animal products.
So vegans need to be careful about B12.
Very careful. They usually need fortified foods or supplements to avoid deficiency, which can cause serious neurological problems and anemia. Percy V's low levels definitely signal problems with red blood cell production. We also have fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. Vitamin K, for instance, is involved in blood clotting. Patients on the blood thinner warfarin need to keep their vitamin K intake consistent, mainly from leafy greens because it counteracts the drug.
And minerals.
Also essential. We divide them into macrominerals needed in larger amounts, like calcium, phosphorus for bones, sodium, potassium, chloride for fluid balance, and microminerals or trace elements needed in tiny amounts, like iron for hemoglobin, zinc, iodine. Iron deficiency is a common cause of anemia. Like vitamins, getting too much of certain minerals can also be toxic. And let's not forget water, vital for basically everything.
Phew, okay, that's a lot of biochemistry. How does this translate into practical advice for eating well?
That's where things like the Dietary Guidelines for Americans come in. They try to synthesize all this science into actionable recommendations for the public, aiming to promote health and prevent chronic disease.
What are some of the key takeaways?
Well, maintaining a healthy weight through balancing calories in and out is fundamental. Regular physical activity is crucial, aiming for at least 30 minutes most days, plus some muscle strengthening. Choosing nutrient-dense foods is key. Lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean protein sources, like fish, poultry, beans, lentils, and low-fat dairy.
What about specific macronutrient advice?
For carbs, stick to that 45–65% range, focusing on complex sources, and really limit added sugars, less than 10% of your daily calories, ideally. They just provide calories with no nutrients and contribute to tooth decay. For fats, stay in the 20–35% range, but minimize saturated fats, less than 10% of calories, and eliminate trans fats from partially hydrogenated oils. Prioritize unsaturated fats from fish, nuts, seeds, and vegetable oils. High saturated and trans fat intake raises bad LDL cholesterol, increasing risk for atherosclerosis plaque buildup in arteries.
And protein and alcohol.
Protein needs are met by that 0.8 g/kg for most adults, focusing on lean, high-quality sources. If alcohol is consumed, it should be in moderation. Up to 1 drink per day for women, up to 2 for men. And absolutely zero alcohol during pregnancy because of the risk of fetal alcohol syndrome.
What about vitamins and minerals in the guidelines? Sodium.
Get vitamins and minerals primarily from a varied diet rich in whole foods. Sodium intake should be limited, less than 2.3 grams per day for most adults. Ensure adequate calcium, dairy, fortified foods, and iron. Lean meats, beans, fortified grains. Remember, B12 comes from animal sources. And generally avoid high-dose megavitamin supplements unless specifically recommended by a doctor.
Okay. And finally, what about those xenobiotics you mentioned earlier? Anything practical there?
The main advice is to eat a wide variety of foods. This helps dilute any potential contaminants or natural toxins present in any single food source. It's also suggested to limit salt-cured, smoked, and nitrate-cured foods, as well as heavily charred foods, as these can contain potential carcinogens. On the flip side, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables provides beneficial phytochemicals, many of which act as antioxidants and may offer protection.
Right. Let's quickly bring this back to our individuals. How does this framework help understand their situations?
It crystallizes things nicely. Otto S, the student gaining weight. Clear caloric imbalance. He needs personalized advice on portion sizes, choosing nutrient-dense options over calorie-dense junk food, maybe tracking his intake with something like MyPlate, and setting realistic goals.
Ivan A. obese, apple shape, high blood pressure, high cholesterol.
Textbook exogenous obesity, likely from chronic overconsumption. His central obesity, apple shape, puts him at very high risk for heart disease, diabetes, etc. You need significant lifestyle changes. Diet focused on complex carbs, lean protein, healthy fats, low sodium, and likely medical support for weight loss and managing his related conditions.
Can our underweight, overexercising.
Her extremely low BMI points towards anorexia nervosa. This is primarily a psychiatric condition with severe nutritional consequences. Her treatment absolutely requires a team approach, including mental health professionals and nutrition experts focused on safe weight restoration and addressing the underlying psychological issues.
And Percy V, malnourished and deficient.
He represents severe acute malnutrition. His specific lab results low hemoglobin, ferritin, folate, B12, pinpoint iron deficiency anemia plus B vitamin deficiencies affecting blood cells. Low albumin suggests significant protein malnutrition. He needs urgent, careful nutritional rehabilitation to correct these deficiencies and rebuild his health.
Wow, it really shows how these biochemical principles play out in real clinical scenarios. From ATP right up to dietary patterns and disease risk, it's all connected.
It absolutely is. And understanding this connection, even at a basic level, isn't just for doctors or scientists. It gives you, the listener, the power to make more informed choices every day about what you eat, how you live, and ultimately about your own health journey.
So here's a thought to leave you with. Knowing how intricately your body manages energy, taking it in, using it, storing it, what's one small sustainable change you could realistically make to your daily energy balance starting today, that might create a positive ripple effect for your health down the line. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.